Hey puddins, what is up? Um Today's video is going to be sort of a probably boring video for some of you guys. Others you might be interested in it maybe, but who is really interested in my life? Right? But I want to first start off with, I'm sorry, I've been off of YouTube for about a week, even though it wasn't the great at the end of, or last year at times. And I said that I'm going to be filming and trying to get back into the filming mode. But something happened to me last week, which actually was Monday the 13th. That I will say was the worst Monday I've ever experienced. And I know why. It was the 13th, but usually you have bad luck on a Friday the 13th, but this was a Monday. And I'm going to start off from the start, and then I'm going to kind of work my way into the major ones. I'll save the best ones for last. Well, not the best ones, but the worst ones. So I went to work as usual. I drove to work. My car was fine. Just letting you know my car was fine, okay? And I was probably there for like maybe 2 hours. And my grandmother calls me and was like, my car's broke down. It won't start. Your dad's come to pick me up and take me back home. We're going to call a tow truck. They're thinking it's the starter, you know. So I'm like, oh, great. Lovely. We're down a car, you know, because it's just me and my grandmother's car. So my dad dropped her off, went back to work. Okay. Then, a few minutes go by and she comes back and she's like, I can't get a hold of your mother. Can you call her? I think to ask, no. Let me back that up. She called me back and was pissed because my mother wouldn't take her to go somewhere because one of the church ladies called her, wanted her to go out to the church and pick up some boxed food. Which my grandmother has this thing, which my uncle had told her before he passed, to never deny anything people are going to give you for free, because the next time that you deny it, it might be something good, or they'll remember it and they won't never ask you again. Okay. So she's calling, she's mad. She's like, you need to tell your mom, like, she's gonna have to find someone to watch my brother Dylan, who's 15 or now almost 16. And I was like, oh my god, here we go, you know. So I'm texting my mom, I'm like, hey, Nanny says that you're gonna have to find another way for Dylan to be watched over or something like that. So then she calls me and she's like, or then I call her and I was like, wait a minute, why don't you just take my car? I mean, I told her, I was like, you're gonna have to fill it up a little bit to get there and everything, because it was the day before payday, so I didn't have enough money to put in gas. I mean, I had enough gas to like ride around in the area with, but not like to ride all around the state, let's just put it that way. But she wasn't going far. She was going like 20 or 25 minutes away, so I didn't mind it. So she's like, well, call your mom and see if she'll bring me up to my job. And if anybody knows where I work, please don't blast it out. So I called my mom. I was like, hey, do you mind going over and picking up Nanny and bringing her over to my job to get my car? And then I guess we'll call you when she gets back. My Nanny is pissed off. She basically, my mom goes over there to pick her up, and my grandmother gives it to her and tells her how ungrateful she is, because whenever she needs us to do something, she's like expecting us to do it, of course. And when we expect it, she never goes and pays it forward, you know. So my mom's pissed at this point, and her and I believe it was Shyla and my brother came over to the job and was telling me all about it. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, why did you come to my job to tell me I can't do anything? I can't leave in order to like resolve the issue, because I'm a manager. I have to stay there no matter what. Like, I get fired if I leave the premises, like, at all. And plus we have we work with a prison release, not prison release, but we work with a prison work program type thing. So there has to be a manager with the inmates at all times. So of course it's a huge responsibility for me to stay there. Like, I have to, like, it's mandatory for me to stay there no matter what, even if I didn't have them there working. So anyway, a few minutes later, my grandmother calls me back. Like, a few minutes go by, like, me talking to my mom and everything, and my grandmother calls and she says, I'm getting a ride from our neighbor and they're gonna bring me up there and I'm gonna go. I was like, well, mom and them are up here. She's like, okay, whatever. She doesn't care. She's pissed, really. And when you piss her off, you just gotta let her go off. You know, you add fuel to the flame, it's gonna get bigger. Let's just put it that way with her. So they get there and I tell my brother, I'm like, will you go with her, please? Like, I'm more worried about her driving that far and it being almost 5 o'clock at this point, around this time on Monday. And so he goes. Apparently he says that she was bashing my mom the whole ride there. Apparently they get back, like, it's about an hour or two later. Maybe it was an hour and a half later. Yeah, Shyla stays at at my work with me, and my mom just goes home. And I guess my grandmother, like, dropped my brother off at my mom's. I'm not really sure, because he went with her when she came back to my job. So my grandmother hung out, ate a little bit. Oh, we was talking about how she would have to take my car and then come back and pick me up later. And I was like, no, I can't do that, because obviously I'm the person that transports the inmates back to the prison. So I was like explaining that to her. I was like, I can't. I have to drop them off. And she's like, oh yeah, that's right. And so I was like, I can see if mom would come and get you if you want. She's like, no, I don't want you to. And she's getting so frustrated at this point. And I'm like, Nanny, just let my mom, don't say anything to her. Just ride home, get inside. You'll be great. So when she gets home, the tow truck guy got her car started for her. But let me back up. When my mom comes and picks my grandmother up, my dad calls, because they're in the middle of leaving and going. My dad calls and was like telling my grandmother that he needed me to come get him or help him get out or something. He got stuck, apparently, because it had been raining. And my grandmother was like, well, she's at work right now. She can't go nowhere. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, my bad. So she hands me the phone and, like, I answer it. And he's like, I'm sorry. My dad goes, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were at work. And I was like, that's okay. It's all good. I wasn't worried about it. And then after I hung up the phone, Shyla drops my laptop. I don't know where my laptop is at right now, but the screen fucked up on it. It's not cracked, like the actual glass itself. It's like inside the screen. And she was freaking out and crying and was apologizing. And I'm like, over here, like, so chill about it. I was like, it's okay. I can get it fixed. Like, I wasn't worried about it. And, they leave and, I'm busy at work doing my thing. And then Shyla texts me and says, my dad, Papa, she calls him Papa, is in the ambulance. And he's throwing up or something like that. And I just immediately knew that it was another heart attack. So I call my nanny and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know, but he's heading to the hospital right now, and that's where I'm going. I'm like, okay, this is about 8 o'clock-ish. So, of course, I'm at work. I can't go nowhere, and I'm freaking out because I'm worried about my fucking father now, you know? And come to find out, his dog is really old. She's about 15 years old, and she'd been running into things and, you know, just not having a good time. And he was trying to get her out of the woods that's behind his house, and he started having his heart attack. I guess stressing over the dog or something, because that dog he has had since, well, he got her after my mom and dad split, and she's been with him ever since, you know, and that's his dog, like, you know. And I love the dog too, absolutely. So So I'm freaking out, you know, worried about my dad, and like the whole time. So I'm like trying to keep in contact with everybody to figure out like what's going on, like, you know what I mean? So I couldn't get a hold of my grandmother there for a minute, and I'm freaking out. And I finally got a hold of her about 10 o'clock. And this is right when we, you know, I close, right? I'm getting ready to like close down and go home for the night. And I'm like, hey, where you at? She's like, I'm just pulling into the parking lot at the hospital. Oh my God, like, really? She's like, I don't know what's going on with him yet, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I was like, okay, well, call me, let me know what's going on. So 10:30 comes around, and I haven't heard anything at this point. I'm freaking out. And if you know me, my anxiety, worrying, and all that shit, no. And I finally was like, I couldn't get a hold of I started calling everybody. I called her, and then I couldn't get a hold of her. So I finally called his wife, and she didn't answer at first. And so then I called the hospital, and the only thing they could tell me is, oh, he's still not in the ER. Well, I need to know more. So finally, his wife calls me and was like, hey, you called? I was like, yeah, I just need to know what's going on with my dad. And she's like, well, they put him in they put him in the ambulance. He had 2 massive heart attacks. I think he had one on the way there, or like in the midst of going. And then he had one at the hospital. And at that point, she told me that they've got him on morphine to, like, you know, get the pain chilled off of him. They got him on some nitroglycerin for his heart attack. And they were going to bring him up to the lab, but they only had one lab, so there was somebody already using it, you know, somebody in there, you know, they're using it for, to see if he needed a stent in his heart. But if they did it in a certain amount of time, they were going to give these, like, this medicine to, like, help break up the blood clots and stuff. I couldn't remember the name of the medicine, though. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I told her, I was like, I'm going to try to get up there tonight to see him if I can. If I can't, I'll probably come in the morning time. Well, then I'm leaving, and I'm freaking out, you know, worried about my dad and this, that, and other. And I'm driving the inmates home, and my car breaks down on me. Really? So what happened was, it sounded like my car, like, had a flat tire. Like, you know how it goes pop, and then it goes pop, 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 pop. So I pulled it over, checked my tires. My tires were perfect. So hearing it sounded like it was in the engine. And I was so scared to drive it at that point. I was like, I can't do anything. Like, oh my God, I'm not driving it. So I called up there to the prison. I was like, hey, can y'all come and get these, you know, the inmates? My car broke down. They finally came, and it was probably about close to midnight before they came and picked them up. And I called my mom, and I was like, hey, can you come pick me up? Because I knew my nanny, she was leaving the hospital when I called her and everything. So my mom came pick me up. She had Shiloh with her, and we was waiting around for the guards to come get, you know, the inmates. And they finally showed up, and where I was sitting at, I was scared that it was going to get towed. So I told my mom, I was like, hey, can we just drive up the road just a little ways so I can like pull it into this abandoned gas station? And she's like, yeah, let's. I was like, do you mind following me? So I drove it up there. I took it really easy because I wasn't sure what was wrong with it. I mean, it was drivable, but I wouldn't drove in it to the house. Let me just put it that way. So it sat there for, I think, 2 days, I believe. Maybe it was 3. And so Tuesday rolls around. I had to go to work. I didn't see my dad then. Tuesday morning, he got his stent in his heart. So he was up there, you know, getting that done. And then Wednesday rolled around. Still no car towed. We went up there to see my dad. And he was explaining that there's 4 major arteries that go to your heart. 3 out of the 4 are clogged. One of them already has the stent in it. And when he had the stent the first time, if you remember, like a year and a half ago, when I don't know if I talked about it on here. I might have, I'm not sure. But if anybody knows, my dad already had a heart attack before. The other one, which is the second one that they put the stent in, was 65% blocked. And then the other one was like 35 or 45. I'm not really 100% sure. What baffles me is why they didn't put a stent in there to prevent that one from happening. And the other one is now 65% blocked. My thing is, why didn't they put that stent? Why didn't they put another stent in that heart? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know about the 4th one. I don't think that one was blocked, or it's not showing up being blocked. I don't know. So, but what was the crazy thing was 2 weeks prior to this, he was having problems with his heart. Like his wife was trying to convince him to go to the hospital, and he wouldn't. And he was just my dad's a stubborn mule. That's all he is. And so he stayed there until Thursday, and they released him on Thursday. And also on Thursday, I got my car towed to the house. And my neighbor across the street, he's a car guy, so he knows pretty much a lot of stuff. He was like, I'll look at it, see what's going on. And I was like, great, you know. And actually, let me rewind. He went where the car was at, and he checked my oil, and my oil was completely dry. He's like, I'm surprised that you didn't blow up your engine. Like, he was telling me that. I'm like, really? Like, I mean, I've been so busy working and doing all kinds of stuff like that. But I know the last time that I checked my oil, it was like a quart low, and I didn't get around to going and getting it. But that was like over a month and a half, 2 months ago. So there's no way you could have wasted that much oil in that time. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't know much about cars, okay? So, coming back to Thursday, my dad gets to go home, and he lets his dog out. The old dog. You know, the dog that is old, 15 years old. And he tried calling her, and she didn't show up. And so my grandmother went over there with the kids, and they looked all over the yard for the dog. And her name's Daisy. Couldn't find her. My dad is so upset. Like, that's another thing my dad needs, is more stress after just getting out of the hospital. And they're telling him to rest up. And to this day, she's not been found. My thing is I feel like she's ran off and died somewhere. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for my dad, because I was his dog. Like, you know, once, you know, your dog's been with you for a really long time, that's family right there, you know? And it tears me up too, because I need to tell this story, but my dad went to prison when I was 18. And she was about 2 years old, I think, at this point. She stayed with us for a while, until he got back home. And my grandmother every night would put her into the basement, and she'd have to sleep there. But when my grandmother would fall asleep, I don't think my grandmother ever knew this. I mean, she probably did and just never told me. But I would sneak her back up here, and I used to have a bedroom in the back of the house, and I would sneak her in my room and let her sleep with me and hang out in my room. And before my grandmother would wake up, I would sneak her back downstairs, that way she would never know anything. But yeah, it really hurts me because I also, when I was pregnant with Shiloh, she was all up on me. Like, every time I would come over to his house, she would sit her head on my lap, or like, I have this picture somewhere, and I wish I could find it, but I can't find it to save my life. But I have a picture. I might have taken it like at my baby shower. I might have taken it when I was just hanging out over at my dad's, but I had this digital camera, and I wish I still had this fucking camera. I really do. But it was her head on my stomach when I was pregnant with Shiloh. But I wish I had it so I can give it to him. I know it would mean a lot to him if I gave it to him. It's really hard to talk about this because this was my favorite dog. And now, like, now that Shiloh's older, she's the only kid that she goes to, and she'll let Shiloh pick her up, and she's very finicky about people picking her up and everything. She'll only let like a few people like pick her up, because most of the time she'll just snap at you or bark or holler. So my car situation. So I think it was Friday. Was it Friday? It might have been Saturday. I was heading to work, or I was leaving to go to work, and my neighbor, he was outside, and he was like, "Hey, I need you to look at this." And I was like, "Okay." So apparently, your spark plug, if anybody knows what a spark plug is, I'm pretty sure if you have a car, you know what it looks like. But it basically is the thing that helps to start up your car and everything. I guess, I'm not really sure. I don't know much about cars, but it's about this long, and it has like these little grooves on it, and then at the end it has like a little hook, and then like a little like nubby thing, and like there's supposed to be a space between this part where the nubby thing is and the hook part. Well, it looked like somebody had beat the hook to where, it was like actually touching that nub part. And where your like spark wires are? I don't have spark wires. I have like a coil with like a rubber thing, and then there's like a cap on top of it, or a little piece that goes on top of it. And you'll never have to like replace those. You just have to replace the spark plugs every 2 years. Or I think it's every 100,000 miles, I believe, or 10,000. I'm not really sure. My neighbor told me, and I can't remember if it was 100 or 10,000, but it was somewhere along that. It was a lot of mileage. Well, it was like, it's supposed to go straight in like this. It was bent up and cracked, and part of the coil was broke off on it and everything. And he's like, "Who was the last person to fix your car?" And I couldn't remember at that point. I was like, there's not been that many people that's worked on my car, because I've been blessed with not that many like car issues. And it dawned on me that the last person to work on my car was this shop on down the road from us. And I'm never going to take it to that shop ever again. I went in for my brakes to be worked on, and then I found out that I needed a new O2 sensor or something like that. And I think that they just rushed and shoved that thing back in because they didn't know how to work on it, probably. So he fixed it, or he was working on it on Sunday. He showed me, like, he bought this tool that helps you to like make more grooves in the where the spark plug sits in, and he bought some sort of tool to help him like make more grooves in it. And he put in like an old spark plug that wasn't like completely burned out from his car, and his car is kind of similar, it has the same setup, and he had the little coil thing with the plastic and everything, and he put it in there, and my car, you could not hear that engine run. So he's like, I think we fixed the problem. And then he looked at me and he's like, you'll probably need your oil change as well. And I was like, well, let's just do it all. Like, if you're able to, let's do it all. So Monday rolled around. I think he was still working on it. And then today, my grandmother called me and was like, oh, it's fixed. You know, we just gotta like pay him for like the parts and everything because he went out and bought them already. And so I'm gonna tomorrow, because now my car's, I got my car back. I'm excited. So now I gotta like go and talk to him about how much I owe him. Plus, I want to pay him for working on my car because he worked in the freezing cold and like 20-something degree weather, windy as hell, rainy. I mean, he didn't have to do all that. He could have waited until it warmed up a little bit to do all of that. But he's a trooper, man. Like I give him mad props. But yeah. But the crazy thing, I'm gonna go back to my dad's when my dad was in the hospital. He was already saying that he was going to try to work right after he left the hospital. And I gave that look like, you did when I'm gonna kick your ass. But yeah, that's been my week, and I've been so stressed out. I've been like chewing on my lips. I made my lip bleed today. The inside of my mouth is so chewed up from just nerve. It's like a nervous habit that I have. But I'm so glad that I'm hoping everything's resolved. Just one thing is keep my dad in your prayers. I mean, he's doing better. He's doing fine now. But yeah, that was the Monday from hell, or the start of it, at least. Anyway, I guess I'll see you next time. So like I always say, whether you're dressed up, dressed down, you're beautiful. Bye.